All right, good morning, good morning. I know you guys said you had a hard time with reading my handwriting last time, so I'm going to do my best to have some typing on it today, and we'll see if that makes it any better. That does mean it's going to go slightly slower, though, okay? So when we start talking about the notation for these domain and ranges, I know that we talked about having discrete and continuous graphs last time. We're going to focus on our discrete graphs today. Not just graphs, but like lists of points, as well as mapping, as well as tables and all that kind of stuff. We're going to be looking at what it actually looks like as we start setting up what our domain and range answers are going to be. When you have a list of points or a discrete graph or mapping or a table or something like that, the domain and range are listed in set notation. That means you have the x values, they're going to be listed in braces for the domain, and the y values will be listed again in braces for the range. The braces look like that parentheses with a little squiggly sign that kind of looks like a face on the side of it, and you are going to need to be able to write that out. So let's go ahead and look at this first bit of example right here, okay? So for this example, it gave me a list of points, and we can kind of see that right here that I just highlighted in yellow. In that case, we want to take a look at our x parts of this for the domain. X always comes first on these coordinates, and so when I look at my x's, I've got a list of 0, 2, and 3. And so I'm going to list that here, and that is going to be what my domain is. When I write this, what I'm going to say is that D equals, and we're going to go ahead and open up the braces. We're going to list out those numbers. 0, I've had stuff, 0, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to close it as well. That's how I'm going to list the domain for this. Now, when I look at the range, once again, range is going to be my y values. Those are going to be the numbers that are left on the side. I know that the thing is covering the list of points, but for range, we're going to use R, and R is going to equal, from the list, if you look at your paper, you can follow along where I'm getting the 1, the 2, and the 3 from. And again, I want to close the braces on this, and that is going to be my domain and my range for this. So yes, lists of points are great. Makes it really easy for us. What makes it a little bit harder is as we look at some of the next couple of examples on here, like we have the same thing up here where we're just going to list our x and our y values for the domain and the range. I believe that y'all would be able to handle that without me going into it. Y'all are smart enough to get that. What does make it a little bit harder is what we've got going on down here on number 3, okay? Number 3 doesn't give us that list of points. What number 3 does is it gives us a graph that has a bunch of coordinates on it. And so we are going to have to do a little bit of finagling here in order to get the information out of it. The first coordinate I see on the far left side is going to be at -3, -3 because of where it is on the graph. That's that first coordinate there. I'm going to scooch over to the next one over. I'm going to see another one over there at 1, 1. And then last but not least, I'm going to see that last point at 2, -3. And I'm going to keep track of each of these points because I need to be able to refer back to them. Once I have that taken care of, I'm going to be looking for my domain and my range. Once again, domain, you guys kind of got to know this. The domain is the first letter in these points. It corresponds to the X stuff. So when I go to type this in, I know, this thing's kind of weird. It'll be fine. D equals, because the domain equals, open the braces, and I'm going to go down the list of those numbers that we just wrote down. Everything from the -3, the 1, and the 2. And that is going to be the stuff that goes for our domain. What about for the range? Once again, range always corresponds with the y, which is the second number in these coordinates. And so we're going to list it as well, okay? I know the text is gonna go crazy. I can't even see it, but whatever. Let's fix it. There we go. Range equals. Again, I need to open the braces so I can start listing my range. I have everything from -3 to the number 1 and the -3 again. I'm not going to put the -3 again though. I only need to list that same number once, okay? I don't need to do it twice. The last thing I want to ask about is if this is a function or not. This is something that you're going to need to remember from before about how do you know if it's a function or not, and that's where you do the vertical line test and make sure that your x's do not repeat. In this case, yes, this is a function because none of those dots share the same vertical line. Where like on this one, they do. If I look right here, I have them on that vertical line there, sharing on that same x. This would make it not a function. Once again, I don't want to repeat my x stuff. And so when I look at this and I go, okay, what are my x's? I know that like this one here, my x would be a -1. I know that my x would be again a -1. My other x over here would be a 4. So my domain is only going to be made up of those numbers. My range would have 3 numbers instead of 2 of them. I'm going to have us go ahead and take a look at the table that's on the next page just now, okay? That next page, again, we're going to go kind of on the top where we talk about the domain and the range. The reason it's so long like that is because domain and range don't necessarily have to go with just numbers. In this case, my domain is going to equal, and again, it has to be in braces, but I see where it says Monday. I see where it says Tuesday. I see where it says Wednesday. I see Thursday. You get the idea. These are all the days of the week. I'm going to just put some dots here to save a little bit of time on that because watching me type is probably the most boring thing in the world, but you get the idea. From there, we want to make sure that we have our range taken care of as well. Again, our range is going to equal, the range gets put in braces because it is part of our set notation. And we start working our way up from the smallest numbers to the biggest. You know, the 95 degrees up to the 96 degrees. I've also got the 97 degrees, 98 degrees, 98 degrees again, 96 degrees again. And no, I don't need all that. All I need to do is list each of those once. I don't need to put a second 96 or a third 96 or anything like that. I'm going to put the dots there once again to make sure that you are able to recognize that there's more than just what I've typed, but I recognize that typing is boring. Last but not least, is it a functional relationship? That's got to do again with our x's repeating. You'll notice that on these days of the week, none of them repeat. So yes, this is a function. On the last one, you're going to be taking a look at the game number, like for a season of football and that kind of thing. I'd like for you to go ahead and try filling out that domain in that range and tell me if it is a function or not. I'm going to allow you to take care of that on your own. I'll come by and check it, but really you're just worried about filling in the domain and the range for this set notation. Thank you.